I think there's a lot more that the media doesn't put on TV because they're run by Jews.
So you think the problem is the Jews?
I'd prefer not comment on that.
You just said the media is run by Jews. Which Jews run Australia's media?
Look, I'm not too sure. I'm not very educated on this, but like, it's just my opinion.
Last week I took to the streets of Melbourne to chat with everyday Aussies about their thoughts on the upcoming election. Along the way I met a bloke and had what I would describe as a respectful but eye-opening conversation that laid bare some of the troubling divisions creeping into our great country. Watch the full exchange, it's worth it, then share it with someone who needs to see it. If you appreciate my approach in it, head to followavi.com to join my mailing list and follow me on all platforms so you never miss a thing.
How you going, mate? Are you taking the piss getting such a small dog when you're clearly, that's not a dog fit for size?
I've always had big dogs, but I thought I'll get a little dog, this time, yeah.
Do you feel like people judge you when you have a small dog?
A little bit.
Tell me, election, are you excited?
Not at all.
You voting?
I will vote, but I'm not sure who, who yet, yeah.
Why are you not excited?
Because it seems like whoever you choose, nothing happens, It's just the same thing over and over again,
Tell me, do you think Australia at the moment is divided?
Yeah.
In what way?
I don't know. It's just, the politicians, everyone's just, I feel like there's no order in Australia at the moment, It's just, yeah.
Do you think one of them can bring back order, or you don't have any faith in either of them?
Like history speaks, and it's just, it seems the same thing over and over again. Yeah.
Are you from the city?
I am from the city, yeah.
So you've seen the protests here for now a year and a half?
Yeah.
How do you feel about those?
I'm all for it. Because something's got to change in the world, like, it just seems like the Palestinians, they're just copping it and nothing's getting done, we're funding it.
Yeah. So what would you like to see?
I'd like to see more funding into homelessness on the people on the streets, living on the streets, and less to war.
Yeah.
Less funding for war, because it's just shocking.
But you want Australia to fund the Palestinians, or you don't want them to fund the Palestinians?
Look, I'd prefer to see money going into Melbourne, into the homeless, the people on the streets, and yeah.
Do you think the protests that we're seeing every week here is divisive within the community, within the Australian community?
What do you mean by that?
Do you think there's an atmosphere of hate on when those protests are out and about?
Look, when punt roads close down and stuff like that, yeah, and it affects traffic, I think definitely. But I think if it's done with permits and like people know in advance, they can make other arrangements, public transport arrangements, all that sort of stuff. So I think like freedom of speech has to be, they've got every right to protest.
Yeah.
'Cause,
You seem sympathetic to the Palestinian cause. What do you know about the Palestinian cause? Is it kind of something new that you've learnt since October 7, or is this something you've always known about?
Look, it's been brought to my light more after October 7, yeah, definitely. And I think it's yeah. If I comment on this, people are going to look like, it's going to create a bit of drama, so I'd prefer not to.
Well, is that kind of what I'm talking about? There's a divide in the community. People feel passionate on both sides of the argument.
Yeah, exactly.
But do you think people are speaking from a position of knowledge, of understanding, of actually really knowing what's going on there?
No, I think there's a lot more that the media doesn't put on TV because they're run by Jews.
So you think the problem is the Jews?
I'd prefer not comment on that.
You just said the media is run by Jews. Which Jews run Australia's media?
Look, I'm not too sure. I'm not very educated on this, but like, it's just my opinion.
Do you think the Australian media is too pro-Jewish?
Yeah.
So you watch the nighttime news and you think it's swayed to the Israel, the pro-Jewish side?
Look,
Is there something
I can't comment here.
Is there something? How would you think Israel should have reacted after October 7? Let's say when they kidnapped and killed, 1,200 people, raped women, abducted babies. How do you think? Let's say it happened in Australia. How would you want the Australian government to have reacted to that? I don't know. Maybe do you have siblings?
I do have siblings. I've got children of my own as well.
Yeah. So if somebody, God forbid, abducted your kids, what would you want the Australian? So I don't know, maybe Indonesia, a terrorist group in Indonesia abducted your kids. What would you want?
I'd want a more calculated plan to attack, like not just blow up 10 people around, one Palestinian. I think just more calculated sort of plan to for peace.
Do you have is there an example in history of wartime where there was a more calculated plan?
Not that I can think of, no.
So if I told you that the civilian to combatant ratio in that conflict is actually the lowest in history, what would you say?
Well, I don't know. I'd want to see facts, yeah.
But if it was true, would you be surprised that you don't know that?
Yeah, I would. Yeah.
So again, I go back to the question, do you really think the Jews are controlling the media when it seems like you actually don't know?
But it's run by...
Which Jews?
Oh, I don't know. But the media is run by Jews.
In Australia?
So is Melbourne.
Which Jews? The media, let's start with the media. Can you give me a name?
I can't, no. I haven't looked that far into it, but yeah.
Do you know good Jews?
100%.
Yeah. So it's certain Jews.
No, I'm not against Jews.
It seems like you are a little bit. Why can't Jews work in media? They don't run the media in Australia. In Australia, the media's run either the Murdochs, he's not Jewish, or I guess James Packer, he's not Jewish. I don't know who you're pointing to who's Jewish in the media in Australia. The ABC is run by a non-Jew. So I hear it a lot, and it's a conspiracy, but I want to know, can we back it up with facts?
I don't have facts, no.
Yeah. And that's kind of the divide we're talking about in the community, where you see these protests where they do often say that in those protests, but when you kind of dig deeper into it, is it just easy to pick on a tiny group of people because they're successful?
They're not tiny.
How many Jews are there in Australia?
I don't know, but they're definitely not tiny. They're not a minority.
Jews?
Yeah.
Do you know how many Jews there are in the entire world?
No.
There's under 20 million.
Okay.
You know how many Muslims and Christians there are?
Yeah, probably a lot more. Yeah.
Billions. So they are pretty much, by definition, the biggest minority in the world. I can't think of a smaller group of people.
Okay. All right.
Anyways, it's a good.
Where's this going?
Rebel, we're talking to people about it and trying to understand where some of the misconceptions come from, because at the moment, since October 7, everyone seems to have a really strong opinion about that conflict. But when you dig a little deeper, you realise it's exactly that, misconceptions.
Yeah.
And if you actually knew the truth, then maybe you wouldn't feel the same way about it than you do. And also if you
I'm not anti-Jews at all.
No, but also even the conflict,
yeah.
if you personalise it, if you realise that Israel's very much like Australia, it's a Western democratic country, and that if that happened here, I know, I've got kids, I know if terrorists broke into Australia and abducted my kids, I wouldn't want the government to come up with some fancy plan that meant that they protect everyone's life in enemy territory just to get, I would want them to do every bloody thing to get my kids back. Wouldn't you want that, if you're being honest?
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
And that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
God bless.
Mate. Yeah, cheers.
Thanks, mate. I love your dog, though.
It's heartbreaking to see how quickly proud Australians have been misled into turning on each other over nothing. Certainly nothing they understand. I hope that bloke walked away and had a rethink about his misguided views. If you think I handled it well, give it a like, drop a comment, but most importantly, share it with someone it might reach, somebody that might need to hear some of those answers. Then swing by followavi.com for all the links to stay in the loop. followavi.com. Don't ever miss a thing.